Good evening and welcome to the online Metaphysical Bible Hangout. This Bible experience is an extension of Understanding Principles for Better Living Church, where the Reverend Dr. Delarice Lett is the minister and founder. Up Church is a Bible-based New Thought Christian church, and if you're in the Los Angeles area, we would love for you to join us. Our services are held Sundays at 1 o'clock at 600 West Queen Street in Inglewood, California. I am Reverend Sherri James, Assistant Minister of Up Church. Now, a couple of brief announcements, and you guys are going to have to forgive me because I got to adjust this camera. I feel like it's, all right, just bear with me. A couple of brief announcements before we get started. The first is that every Saturday, Reverend Sherri Thompson hosts the Spiritual Weight Loss radio broadcast, and you can tune in at 9 a.m. Pacific to blogtalkradio.com/Sherri Speaks, or you can dial in at 347-826-9368. I have a new blog post out, 3 spiritually sound ways to handle insults, and this one is personal. I actually got a crazy email yesterday that I truly had to work through, and I thought, you know, if I'm working through how to deal with insults and to take back my energy and to channel it in a positive direction, there's probably somebody else who could benefit from that as well. And so I hope that you find some value in that. And hey there, Ray, I'm going to mute you. If you are listening live and you want to join in this discussion, you can click join and it'll put you in the program and it'll bring you in as a live participant. If you are watching on YouTube and you just want to participate in the Q&A, I periodically check the Q&A during the course, and I can see who's there. And thank you, Lori. I appreciate that. She says, I can hear you and see you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Class handouts. If you still need the class handouts, please let me know. Send me a message. Actually, no, go to my website at revsherri.com, and if you go to the current class, you can actually download the list there. And we are getting ready for a new class at my church, and it's a teleclass, and so everyone can participate. It is a wonderful class. It's on it's called 21 Days of Forgiveness, and it's a daily teleclass from 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. So half hour, 7 a.m. to 7:30 each morning, and it's Pacific. If you are not in the time zone and you still want to participate in the class, you can definitely do that. We record the sessions and they'll be available for you for the class. The class is $25, and that includes the purchase of the book, which is Mary Tumpkin's Before You Pray, Forgive. Now, I have to say a little bit about forgiveness because it's usually the subject where people get a lot of eye rolls and they say, oh yeah, that's what I'll you know, only saints do forgiveness. And I want to disabuse you of what forgiveness is. True forgiveness is energy transformation. True forgiveness is energy transformation. So it was never about the other person. It was always about taking a negative energy and working with it and shifting it and shaping it and manipulating it until you turn it into an energy that empowers you. And so there are techniques that you can use to be able to do that. And if you are a high-functioning person, you are talented and you have a lot to give to life, the thing that you want to give yourself the gift of is forgiveness, is the ability to let go of whomever would seek to take your peace, whether it's through, you know, insulting you or whether they unknowingly offended you. Either way, what you want to do is you want to take that energy so that it is not sitting over there in a grudge. It's not sitting somewhere in grief, unprocessed, and you want to begin to work with it. And so in this 21 days, this is the kind of spiritual work that we're going to be doing. So I highly encourage you to sign up for the class. I will include a link on the Google Plus event page and on my website where you can find information about the class. And if you like this broadcast and you like the things that are coming out from revsherri.com, please subscribe so that you can be notified of other videos and other things that I post besides these classes. So I am revving up. This was my first full week a full-time entrepreneur. Hey, and it was nothing like it. It was amazing. So as I continue and develop, you're going to start to see more and more things that are available through my site, classes that I'm offering, different products that I'm developing. I'm also working on some private study options for you where I will work with a small group of maybe 2 or 3 people on a particular issue. So this is really an opportunity for you to take whatever it is your thing and get some direct spiritual coaching on it. This journey is rooted in Scripture. And the scripture that guides us in this process is Matthew chapter 28, verse 19 and 20. And it says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you." And so before we start anything, we always open this class in prayer. And so I just ask that right where you are, if you would just take a moment to just relax and just release any tension, any resistance that you have to this moment. Each of us went through something to get here. And we just want to take a moment to detach from everything but this present moment. Wherever you've been, whomever you've been with, whatever you have been through, we just want to center ourselves in this moment. Bring all of your attention to this place now. And just relax and open up. We're just going to call on the absolute, perfect power of good. We call this by name, we call it God, but we also call it I am, or Spirit, or Christ, or Holy Spirit. But we call on all the good there is. And we ask for a deeper revelation. We are moving through this text, and our intent is to be more spiritually aligned, more spiritually aware, more in tune with the one power and the one presence. We know that we are divine. We know that we are perfect. We know that we are whole. We know that we are complete. And so we ask right now for a deeper revelation so that we might express this truth in our being. We give thanks and praise for everything that will be exchanged here this evening. We ask that you guide each of us to say the things to one another that deepen our connection with Spirit. And I release this prayer in the name and the nature of Jesus the Christ. And I let it be so. And so it is. And amen. All right, I'm excited. We have been blowing through Revelation, and I tell you, it truly is the kind of course. I mean, those of you that are following along in the chapter, you know that this is the kind of course where you have to go back over and over and over. And as I was preparing for today, I was thinking, gosh, you know, you could really get lost in all of the symbology. There are so many symbols in this text that right now we just moved through, or we're going to go through tonight, chapter 15, 16, 17, and 18. But there's so much symbolism all throughout this text. And if there's anything that I hope that you've taken away from this walk through Revelation is, one, to just demystify the scariness of it, to take the doom and gloom nature of Revelation that you've been given from traditional teachings, and to see that this is really a teaching about what happens as you move through levels of consciousness. That when you are pushing through yourself, it is like going through hell. because everything in you agrees with you staying right where you are. We like things to be the same. We want certainty. We want to know that everything is going to be okay before we will step out and take a risk. And that simply is not how life works. In order to be who you have been called to be, you have to step out and take a risk, and you have to become comfortable with uncertainty. And so Revelation becomes a guide to help us understand how to process that uncertainty. And it gives us this symbolic journey of these Hebrews, or Christians, they're Christians at this point, Christians who are dealing with persecution at the hands of the Roman government for practicing their spirituality. So looking at their journey, looking at the things that they had to go through in order to persevere, in order to stand up and say, this is what I believe as a spiritual being, this is what is true for me, and I'm willing to die for it, that there are lessons in it for us. And so Revelation is not the end of the world. I want to tell you that there is no end of the world. Everything in life attests to the continuation of life. What do we know is that life changes form. So there will come a time when I will put this body down, right? I will put this body down, and this home that I live in will be no more, and this phone that I use will be no more. I've already gone through about 6 of them in my lifetime of having cell phones, maybe more. But the life force has no end. It has no beginning, and it has no end. It is the Alpha and it is the Omega. And its purpose, its intent is only to enliven that which it is breathed into. So there is no end to life. There may be an end to this form, but there is no end to life. God is what we would call the self-existent one. No beginning, no end. The Alpha, the Omega. All. Absolute. So just a quick review, and if you have any questions, definitely put them in the Q&A. If you are live in the call, you can put them in the chat and I will get them, and as I see them, I will respond to them. So let's just do a little review of Revelation. The first thing we had was the vision of the Christ, and we understand now that metaphysically the Christ represents our higher self. This is who we really are. This is the part of ourselves that can never be harmed, that can never be touched. In the Hebrew scriptures, it is spoken about as the Lord, with small caps, L-O-R-D, small caps. And in the Christian scriptures, it's spoken of as Christ. And it becomes aligned with Jesus because Jesus is the only one that we are aware of, at least have a written record of who expressed the Christ as fully as he did. But he is not the Christ, singularly. The Christ is a level of spiritual attainment to which we all can aspire. So I want to make that clear. And then we move to the 7 letters to the 7 churches. And we know that a church, metaphysically, is a spiritual center inside of ourselves. And so each of the 7 churches that John was writing to in Asia Minor represents an area in us. And those letters were a form of self-coaching. They were a way for us to address, for example, Ephesus, which represents desire. That there are places where our desire is approaching the spiritual aspect of God, and there are places where our desire is right here down on the human level and mired in a belief in materiality and a belief in this physical experience. And so the letter that John writes to Ephesus is to say you need to basically clean up your act. That's what the letters are about. They're self-coaching letters. And I want to remind you, and this is an important key to metaphysics, you are everyone and everything in the text. You are everyone and everything in the text. So, for example, tonight we're going to look at the 7 bowls, and there are 7 angels, and their bowls contain the wrath of God, and they are pouring out these bowls and over the earth, and different things are happening in the earth as the bowls are poured onto the earth. And what I want you to understand about metaphysics is that you're the bowl, you're the angel, you're the wrath of God. You're each of those elements. Each of them is an aspect of your mind. So when you are reading Revelation, what you are reading is a movement in your mind. These are things that are happening within you as you are ascending, as you are moving up in consciousness, as you are turning loose the death grip of the ego. That these are the things that are happening, and so these are word pictures that are meant to communicate the seeming distress that the soul goes through to get to that higher level. Then we started moving through the visions, and so we have done the first, second, third, fourth, and today we come to the 5th vision. Tonight's vision is about the development of understanding and strength. It is about the development of understanding and strength. With the 4th vision, we got a glimpse of our real selves. We saw what we looked like, meaning all the things that are great about us and all the things that are really messed up about us. And we have weathered the storm, and we have come to a place. I think the song says, "I've come too far to turn back now." Nobody told me the road would be easy. Well, nobody told me that the road would be easy at all. In fact, they didn't say it would be easy. They just said that you could do it, that you could move through limited states of consciousness, that you could throw off the belief in poverty, that you could throw off the belief in disease, that you could throw off the belief in human limitation in any form, and come into a physical, mental, and spiritual realization of your true self. That's what was promised to me. Not promised at all that it would be easy. And so this 5th vision is, you've gone through the storm, and you are no worse for the wear, but you have gotten to a place where you have become committed to your journey. You are absolutely downright committed. And so the 5th vision is of the 7 bowls, and our takeaway from this one is this sense of completion in the soul, even though there is more outer development to come, because we're only at the 5th vision. There's still the 6th vision and the 7th vision before the new heaven and the new earth come forward. So I want to touch on a couple of things for the development of understanding and strength. And the first thing is that this is, I'm reading from page 251 in Elizabeth Stan Turner's Be Ye Transformed. It cannot be emphasized often enough that we draw spiritual tests to ourselves by the very intensity of our desire to know God and to be worthy of Him. The challenges that come are not misfortunes, but rare good fortune. In order for you to move to a higher level of expression, in order for you to be more than you are right now, you've got to master this level. In order for you to come out of 1st grade and go into 2nd grade, you have to master the things that happen in 1st grade. In order for you to come out of 1st grade and move into 2nd grade, or come out of 2nd grade and move into 3rd grade, you have to master the things on that level. And so in order for you to come out of poverty thinking, in order for you to move past a belief in lack, in order for you to get to a place where you are living in the overflow of abundance that has been provided for you since the foundation of the earth, you've got to master the poverty thought. And what does that look like? That means I got to get over becoming emotional when I quote unquote run out of money. I got to stop believing that I've run out of money. I mean, think about it. When have you ever really run out of money? Ever. At some point, more money shows up. Even if you are living a homeless experience, more money shows up. It is an impossibility to run out of money. Even if there was a stretch of 6 months before the next money came in, the next money came in. And so what you want to do is get your time down. You want to get that time down between when you quote unquote run out of money and the next money come in. And this is what spiritual mastery is about. It is about letting go of the belief that just because I don't see it in the physical, it doesn't mean that I don't have it. And so to them that have, more is given. And to them that don't, it is even what they have is taken away. This is one of the mystical lessons of the parable of the talents. That when the master came back, the servant to whom he had given the 5 talents had multiplied them and turned them into 10 talents, and the servant to whom he had given 2 had multiplied them and turned them into 4. But the one who had 1 buried it out of fear of losing the one thing that they had. And there was no compassion for, oh, you poor thing, you were so afraid of losing that you at least protected and delivered back what I gave you. And it's like, no. This life is about production. And so you must produce. And so the servant that had the 1 talent, even that 1 talent was taken, excuse me, and given to the one with 10. So, forgive me. So the work is learning to stop believing that you do not have. This is a quote from Fillmore. This is also on page 251. And it says, an understanding of the wrath and the plagues can be gained only by knowing the true character of God as principle, law, unalterable, and unchangeable. An understanding of the wrath and the plagues can be gained only by knowing the true character of God as principle, law, unalterable, and unchangeable. This is usually an area where many people have difficulty because they read about the wrath of God, which is one person's understanding of God, and they take that to be the truth about God. The Spirit of God cannot be both wrathful and absolute good. It's going to have to be an either or. The Spirit of God cannot be both wrathful and absolute good. You just can't have it both ways. God cannot be a God of love and then also a God that gets angry. You're going to have to pick. If God could be both loving and wrathful, vengeful and just, if God could be that, it would mean that God would have to be able to change. And then God would cease to be the changeless one. If God could be jealous, then God would have to change. And then you'd also have to say, jealous of what? I mean, if you are all there is, what are you jealous of? So oftentimes when this is usually when you get somebody who's a thinker who says, the Bible is nonsense because, you've got these very human concepts of God. And then you got the ones who don't think, who try to fit their mind around a God that changes. But either way, you get two people who run off in crazy directions with the text. And what you have to understand is that I'm going to get some water. Sorry about this. What you have to understand is that God is changeless. And so if God is ever good, God is always good. And just because someone does not understand the nature of what it is to be absolutely good all the time does not make their concept true. But here's the beauty of what you do get with these concepts, that if you can move past the literal facts of the story, if you can get into the spiritual nature of the story, there is something rich and available for you there. And this is where metaphysics comes in. If you have any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat. Those of you that are in the call live, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask them. I want you to interrupt me because I want to make sure what I'm giving you is useful. In fact, I'll stop for a second to say, are there any questions? Is there anything that I've said that's like, wait, hold up, you need to go back. You need to explain what this is. I don't know if I can agree with this whole thing that God can't be wrathful. What about this punishment I have?
Sherri, I have a question, please.
Sure.
You, and maybe these were not your exact words, please correct me, but you talked about being tested before you can get up to the a new level, and we're told that God doesn't test us. He realizes that we face these challenges, and maybe it's our limited vocabulary, and maybe challenge is a better word. Could you elaborate on that statement a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So I'll repeat that and then make sure I understand what you're saying. What you're asking is, what are these challenges that we have? If we're not tested, what's going on?
Right, exactly.
Okay, very good. All right, got it. So the first thing is to recognize that we create our own experience. That our entire purpose is to know ourselves as spirit. The reason you're on the planet, it may look like, okay, I'm here and I'm a mother, or I'm here and I'm a wife, or I'm here and I'm a husband or father, or I am a talk show host, or I am a teacher, or that those are the ways that you have come expressing. But the ultimate purpose of each of those assignments is to come to know yourself as God in expression. Each of those assignments is to get to know yourself as divine. And so every experience is to draw you back to yourself. I think it's over the ancient temple that the oracle at Delphi says, know thyself. That is the work, to know yourself. And that means going beyond the physical level and knowing yourself as spirit. Knowing yourself as a part of the great all. To recognize that there is no difference or distance between you and God. That the Father and you are one. And for those of you that need it, the Mother and you are one. God is genderless. So the reason that we say God does not test you, well, one, it says it in Scripture in James chapter 1, verse 18. But besides that, it is also to ask yourself just a logical question of, what would an all-knowing God find out? you are being tested so that what can be discovered about you. If I created you, what is it that could be discovered about you? What new fascinating thing am I going to uncover? Not one thing. So we bring experiences to ourselves so that we can know who we are. And we may not understand all of the experiences that we bring to ourselves. And I think that that's probably the challenge, because someone would say, well, I wouldn't choose some of the mess that happened to me. You know, if you look at some of the things that happened in my experience, I wouldn't choose a dad who abused me. I wouldn't choose a mom who would never hug me, right? You wouldn't consciously choose that. And I think that somehow we think that we are always consciously choosing the things that are happening in our experience, but and the specific things that happen in our experience. But what we choose is the lesson, not the form. So when you think about the things that experience teaches you to be more loving, right? This is the way you needed to learn to be more loving. But you can also choose a different way to be more loving depending on how you see yourself. Look, I'm talking in circles. I need to kind of bring this down low. So hold on. The choices that we make, we are constantly choosing. There is no point in our experience, whether we are on this plane or not, because that's the nature of our soul, is that we are always choosing. There is no end to the choice that is happening in the soul. And there is no point in our experience, even when we are an infant, where we have let go of the power of choice. And we may not always be consciously aware of the choice that is being made or how the choice that is being made, but it doesn't change the fact that a choice is being made. So the experiences that come our way, so, I think it was Wayne Dyer that was telling this story. He said, I hated, doing taxes, and I hated putting receipts together, and, that I just really, really didn't like it. And he said, well, the opposite is just, give the IRS all my money. Let them take whatever they decide that they want to take, and don't worry about the receipts. And it's like, no, I want my fair share of my money back. I'm okay with paying taxes, but I don't want to pay more taxes than I need to pay. And so I'm going to develop a system that allows me to keep track of my receipts. And so he developed a system where he puts out 12 boxes, and through the year, as he gets receipts, for every month, the receipt goes in the box for the appropriate month, or not, they're not divided by month, category, 12 categories. And a receipt goes in there, and then he brings in somebody that he hires at the end of the year who comes in and sorts through the receipts and tallies everything up and hands it over to the accountant. And so now he has reduced the burden that's on himself, but he's made sure that he's set up his life so that he's not giving all of his money to the IRS. It's the same thing in our experience that we can choose how we respond to things that we may not necessarily like. And if you are, not taking good care of your taxes, then probably you are looking for an audit at some point. Did God send an audit to you? No. But you were choosing your way there all the time based on how you handle your resources. So every experience is chosen by a series of steps, and I don't think that you could reduce it back down to just one single step. Does that answer your question, Ray?
Yes, it does.
Okay, great. Thank you. I want to touch on another piece. This is when you get to the point in this vision, in consciousness, it is that you have been through so much, and you get to a place where you say, you know, I'm simply going to resolve to work in harmony with the Lord. And I thought that it probably was worthwhile to just spend some time explaining what does that really mean to work in harmony with the Lord. So first of all, let's at least define what the Lord is. Metaphysically, the Lord is I am. Exodus 3:16 says, whom shall I say sent them? And it says, tell them that I am has come. This is my name for all the morning. And I know I'm not giving you verbatim that verse, just FYI. But the name is I am. And so when you use the name I am, you are taking the name of God and you are getting involved with God. Every time you use I am, you are becoming involved with God. And you're becoming involved with God in according to whatever you put behind I am. I am stands in complete integrity under every word that you put behind it. It will not lie for you. It will not correct you if you are wrong. It will simply bring to you whatever you put behind it. So to cooperate then with the Lord, to cooperate with I am, means to use terms or words or expressions that agree with the truth about God. To cooperate with I am means to use words or terms or expressions that are true of God. So that means I trade in I am broke for I am rich. I trade in I am tired for I am full of the life of God, or I am full of energy. I trade in I am sad for the joy of the Lord is my strength and I am happy. You're trading it off. The thing is that I am will create in whatever direction you send it. So this fifth vision, this place in consciousness, is where you come to a point where you say, you know what? I am done having these mixed expressions. And no matter what it looks like, no matter what I have to continue to go through, I'm going to resolve to be in alignment with God in my thinking, in my feeling, in my speaking, and in my doing. Are there any questions about that? Anything that doesn't make any sense? Anything you want me to highlight? On page 253, I thought this was so great. This is the point where she's talking about the fifth bowl that is being poured. And she says the same attitude, I'm reading the last paragraph on page 253. The same attitude persists when the fifth bowl is poured. Essentially what's happening is that the bowl is being poured, it's the wrath of God, and the people are resistant. And so there are things that are happening to them. They are being burned, like scorched by the sun. They're having foul sores break out on the body, but they're having all of these unexpected calamities happen to the physical being. Yet they are persisting in the thinking. And you can think of it this way, that as you are moving through consciousness, as you are graduating up the level of consciousness and coming into higher thinking, there's still that part of you that's attached to how you used to be. There's still that part of you that does not want to change. And so that part of you has to be dealt with. And so it is in this fifth vision that part is dealt with. So she writes, the same attitude persists when the fifth bowl is poured. It is aimed directly at the very center of the carnal mind, which is represented by the throne of the beast. It is an amazing fact that we will endure all manner of distress rather than give up our habits of thought and action. We will seek help from every available earthly agency rather than turn to God and abide by His law. We want to change the condition, but have great aversion to changing ourselves. And I wrote beside that as a side note, if we do not change, nothing changes. This is so important. I feel like I say that every time. It's all important. I want a change in consciousness. I want to be different. But it is. If we do not change, nothing changes. If we continue to think and feel the same way, we set ourselves up for the same experience. And it just changes form. And you've seen people who've done it. You've seen someone come out of one relationship and they were being knocked across the head in one relationship, and they got out of that relationship, and no sooner had they entered the next relationship, they were getting knocked across the head in that relationship. If we don't change, nothing changes. We've seen it with people with their health. They, diabetes appears. It shows up. Now you're testing for diabetes. And rather than make a change in your diet, a real change, you'd rather manage it with injections. Rather than exercise, which would strengthen the body and allow you to move this condition out of the body, you'd rather keep the same eating habits that enables the diabetes. So this attitude, when you're rising in consciousness, there are parts of yourself that you have to let go of. I remember Dave Chappelle on an Oprah Winfrey show talking about getting to that next level, and when he had gotten the huge salary, I think it was a $50 million payday for the series or something like that, and he talked about like punching through the ceiling, like punching through this glass ceiling. And it's like that when you're breaking through your consciousness to your higher self, it literally is like punching through what this container that's around you, because the words that you use, the thoughts that you think, the feelings that you feel build a bubble around you that looks a certain way. And so it can, even though there's abundance everywhere, the words that you use, the thoughts that you think, the feelings that you feel control what you see. Even though you live and move and have your being in the abundance of God, the way that you think and feel and speak about your universe controls what you even see. So you look at a situation, and a millionaire looks at a situation, and even though they're the same set of circumstances, the two of you see something entirely different. If we do not change, nothing changes. If you want to have more money in your experience, how you look at money has to change. If you want more love in your experience, how you look at love has to change. And so this movement through revelation is a movement through consciousness to express more. And so probably a good time now would be to look back, especially if you've been with this series since the beginning, and we started right at the end of April. Look back at what is your new heaven and your new earth. What are you bringing forward? And the question to ask yourself right now is, what do I need? How do I need to look at this differently? And that's the question that I'm asking myself. I have been working on my website, breadsherri.com, and I thank you for those of you that have gone to the website. And I am, I've really been, working with a coach to kind of figure out like the best way to position it and where do I fit in the marketplace and how do I position myself so that so that it stands out and it's not just, lost in the shuffle of the billions of websites that are on, the World Wide Web. How do I create a splash that gets heard? If we do not change, nothing changes. And so the question to ask yourself, now that we're at this fifth vision, is how do I need to look at this differently? How do I need to think about this differently? Because how I've been thinking about it is influencing how it's expressing. How I've been feeling about it, how I've been talking about it, is controlling how it's expressing. And the only way for it to change is that my thinking, my feeling, my speaking, and my doing have to shift. The only way, if I don't change, nothing changes. And I can get a whole new website design. But if I don't change, nothing changes. And I present that to you as your takeaway for this evening. If you don't change, nothing changes. What is the new heaven and the new earth that you are calling forward? When we get to July 10th, which is our last class for this series, when we get to July 10th, what do you want to be looking at, thinking about, feeling about, and speaking about differently? What shift do you want? What new thing or new way of relating to your world are you going to commit to? If we don't change, nothing changes. We want to change the condition, but we don't want to change ourselves. And that simply is not how it works. That just isn't how it works. So I'm going to open the floor up. There's so much more in this chapter. This text is just rich. Like I said, as I was preparing for you guys this evening, I was thinking, God, you could really get lost in the symbology, and you could just sit in one chapter. I mean, there's enough material in one chapter to stretch that across a class series. But just to reiterate the things that we talked about tonight, we talked about the development of understanding and strength. That when you get to this place with the fifth vision, that you have made a commitment to see it through, even though you're not done with the sixth vision, the seventh vision coming, but there is this sense of I will continue on. I've come too far to turn back now. That I don't necessarily know when the end is in sight, but I have resolved to get to the end. I have resolved to keep pushing until I receive, until I pull forth and pull out of consciousness, pull out of the invisible, my new heaven and my new earth. And I'm undaunted, I'm untouched, I'm unfazed by the changes in consciousness that I've gone through, the ways that I've had to adjust myself and adapt who I think I am. I'm okay with that. And then we talked about what it means to work in harmony with the Lord. First we said that the Lord is the I am. And that when you work in harmony with I am, it means that you do not use words with I am that don't agree with God. So gone is I am sad. Gone is I am broke. Gone is I am sick. It has no place anymore in your vocabulary because you have resolved to work in harmony with the Lord. And then finally, our takeaway is that if we don't change, nothing changes. That one of the lessons that we pull from these 4 chapters in Revelations, chapters 15, 16, and 17, as we're watching the angels pour these bowls of the wrath of God on the earth, we're seeing that there's still parts of the earth, and we know metaphysically the earth is our body. There's still parts of our body that is resisting change. And so we ask ourselves the question, what are we willing to change? What are we willing to let go of in order to have a new heaven and a new earth? It's not too late for you to claim your new heaven and your new earth. It's not too late for you to insist on a higher expression for your life today. But you're going to have to change. If you don't change, nothing changes. If I don't change, nothing changes. Any questions? Anything you heard that's useful? I have a question here. It says, can you elaborate on drawing yourself to see yourself and when it will change, and when will it change when it is not pleasing to us as our consciousness changes? Okay. First of all, thank you for that question, and I'll drawing yourself to see yourself. Okay, so I think you may be referring to something I said last in a previous lesson, which is that as you use your I am, as you affirm I am rich, as you affirm I am love, as you affirm I am peace, you bring up those parts of yourself that are unlike that. You bring up those parts of yourself that are resistant to being love. It has no choice. It's like you. It's kind of like, you know, when you throw the rock, you know, the dog that barks is the one you hit. So the rock of I am love is gonna find a dog, and that dog is gonna stand up. And so you want to become more observant of your experience. You know, one of the things that I learned about myself, you know, when my energy is low and I have some unprocessed energy that I need to deal with, that I start to feel sleepy, even though I may not be sleeping, even though I've had, you know, enough rest, that I start to feel this fatigue. And it's that kind of sleep, like all I want to do is just lay down. And that's usually a signal for me that, oh, okay, I've got some stuff that I need to address. And in that particular instance, I'm referring to something that happened yesterday. There was some unforgiveness that needed to happen, some processing that needed to happen because someone had insulted me earlier that day. And I was still carrying it around, and it was impacting how I was moving through the day. So the question says, can you elaborate on drawing yourself to see yourself? So yes, as you use your I am, you will bring up who you really are, meaning the good, the bad, and the ugly. You will bring all of that up. Now, when will it change? I don't know that anybody can answer when. What I can tell you is to persist, but I don't know that I can tell you when. It changes when we change. It changes when we change, but I don't think anybody can say this is when change happens. I don't think anybody can say this is when change happens. It just doesn't work like that. There are things that, if you looked at my life, that it has taken me, you know, 2 days to get over, and there are things that has taken me 20 years to get over. So it takes as long as it takes. I do know that when you are intentional about it, that when you are deliberate about it, and when you continue to work on it consistently, that it changes faster than you think. I do know that. I do know that when you put deliberate intention to it, you do not have to struggle with it forever. That you will be rewarded, but the when, I don't know that I can answer the question when. Thank you for that question. I don't know if that completely answered you or was satisfactory. I wish I could tell you, oh yeah, shoot, in 5 days, it's all good. No, not so much. Not so much. Thank you so much for that question. Any other questions? Anything else? Any aha moments? These remaining 2 minutes. So July 17th, we'll start a new series. Our last class for Revelation will be July 10th, and then the following Thursday we will start on a new series. I will tell you that I'm going to be in Chicago for my church's conference on the following 2 Thursdays away from that, which is July 24th, and I will be broadcasting live, so I will be doing this class from the Windy City. And maybe I'll bring in some of my super duper metaphysical, friends who are really, really doing it big in their part of the country, because we're all going to be together in Chicago. So yeah, maybe I'll do that. That'll be a nice treat for you guys. And I think I'll probably have another camera by then, so I will be able to share with you a lot of good stuff. So yeah, that's something good to look forward to. Any questions? Any questions? I want to tell you that the reading for next week, I want you to read Revelation chapter 19 and chapter 20, and pages 262 to 272 in Elizabeth Sand Turner's Be Ye Transformed. Revelation chapters 19 and 20, and then pages 262 to 272 in Elizabeth Sand Turner's Be Ye Transformed. Thank you so much for tonight. This has been an incredible class, and I really appreciate the fact that you guys show up. Really thankful for that. And thank you very much for visiting my website. I do want to encourage you to join my newsletter. I'm actually getting ready to launch that. My plan was to launch it sooner, but it's coming. And I've got some good stuff in it. And I'm also working on some great videos and other content to share with you just to help enrich your experience. So I really appreciate you. I really thank you. Oh, thank you so much. This is Laurie. She says, thank you, Reverend Sherri. Revelation has never been clear to me as it is now. Also, I now fully understand I am. Bless you. Thank you, Laurie. So glad you found me. I'm always interested in how people find me, because I have figuring out how to market and let people know I'm here is like this is what I do during the day. I'm like, okay, I really have to affirm that I am tapped into all the knowledge that there is. And the spirit in me knows how to find the people who want this information. So, but consciously, I'm still working on it. So thank you so much for that, Lori. I really appreciate it. So I just bless you. I release you in the love and the light of the Christ, and I thank you so much for tonight. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this helped you and added value to your experience. If there is something in particular that you want me to cover, I'm still working on what the next class series is going to be. I'm very open to that. If there's a particular area of the Bible that you're interested in, let me know, because there's still enough time for me to develop a specific curriculum if there's an area that you want to go to. And I think someone said how to do metaphysical interpretation, but I've got to figure out if Google Plus will allow a webinar, meaning I'm going to need to be able to put up a screen so that you can see how I work out the interpretation. And I don't know if Google Plus gives me all of that functionality. So I may have to do that in a different format. But if there's another area of the Bible that you want me to work on, definitely let me know. And I will definitely prepare some lessons for that. So thank you so much. I bless you in the name and the nature of the Christ. I affirm that you are divine, that you are perfect, you are whole, you are wonderful. You are absolutely the marvelous, unique expression of excellence that God created you to be. I see it in you, I see it in myself, and I just thank you for participating in this journey where we can draw it out of each other. And I just release you today in the love and the light of the Christ, and I affirm that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and so it is. Have a beautiful evening, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.